think I'm bisexual. I prayed about it, Mom. I've resisted it, but it won't go away. Now I know what you're thinking. You're hoping I whipped out a rainbow flag and said, Annie, that's totally fine. We accept you just the way you are. But that's not quite what happened. See, I had nothing against LGBTQ people, really. But after 20 years in the Evangelical Church, I believed that being gay was somehow wrong. I love my daughter, and I thought I had to protect her. So I said, Annie, don't give in. We'll support you. How can I help? As I hung up the phone, my heart sank. I knew we'd never be the same in the church again. Later, at Bible study, I shared with some of my closest friends, hoping they'd give me some wisdom. Instead, they just went straight to the rules. They said, being gay is a sin and you can't accept it. Not accept my daughter? What does that even mean? I was devastated. I realized I was being asked to choose between the two most important parts of my life, my child and my church. I chose my child. What else was I going to do? I chose Annie, and we left the church. We lost our community. And 8 years later, half our family still doesn't speak to us. My faith was fraying at the edges. I needed to understand this. And what does the Bible even really say about it anyway? I needed to understand, and I began to read everything I could. I even went to seminary. And I learned that most Christians do accept LGBTQ people. Yeah. And I also realized that I had become extremely judgmental. That was a really hard realization. But I began the deep process of deconstructing that judgment. Meanwhile, Annie called from New York. She said, Mom, I'm dating women now, and I'm more at peace with God than I've ever been. That was all I needed to know. Rob and I came to complete peace about Annie. 3 years passed. Things were good. Annie came home for a visit. We were in the kitchen making salads for lunch, and she said, Mom, are you sure you won't change your mind and reject me, you and Dad? I was like, sweetie, I am sure we will not reject you, but why are you asking? Then she told me about her friend Allison. When Allison came out, her mother threw her down the stairs and threw dishes at her. That was a real wake-up call. It wasn't just about our little family. It was about countless other families. And around that same time, I went to a Christian women's gathering where the speaker was saying, you've got to do what God calls you to do, no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how unexpected. If God calls you, you've got to do it. So I went to her at the break, and I said, as you were speaking, God was telling me to serve the gay community. It's not what she expected. She said, you mean to help them not be gay, right? So much for hearing God say the unexpected. But I knew in her response that this is a huge problem. LGBTQ people are being bullied, beaten, shamed, abandoned, and rejected. And parents are being asked to choose between a demanding God and their own child. And none of this has anything to do with what we learned from Jesus about the power of love. Research shows that 57% of transgender youth without parental support attempt suicide. But with parental support, that number goes down to 4%. 57% to 4%. That's the power of a parent's love.